What if I told you that the greatest secret to creating wealth has absolutely nothing to do with your bank account, your connections, or even your current circumstances? What if this secret lies hidden within the most powerful force you already possess, your mind? There's a dangerous book I've discovered that, once understood, will forever change how you think about wealth creation. This isn't just another self-help promise or motivational fluff. I'm talking about tapping into a fundamental law of the universe that most people never discover in their entire lives. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Your mind, right now as you're watching this, is the origin point of everything you'll ever achieve. And you're here because deep down, your soul is already prepared to create wealth from within. Has this ever happened to you? You've worked harder than everyone around you, followed all the conventional advice about money and success, yet somehow that breakthrough you're seeking remains frustratingly out of reach. That's because you've been playing by the wrong rules all along. The truth that financial experts don't want you to know is that your ability to create wealth, success, or any personal transformation depends exclusively on what you believe in the depths of your mind. We're not talking about positive thinking or empty affirmations here. We're talking about a conviction so powerful, so unshakable, that it literally molds your external reality to match your internal vision. This ancient wisdom has been carefully guarded, sometimes distorted, and often ridiculed throughout history because it gives real power to those who truly understand it. It transforms you from someone who merely reacts to circumstances into someone who actively creates them. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. It might even disturb you, but it will definitely change how you see your potential forever. Think about every wealthy person you admire, every successful entrepreneur whose story inspires you. They all discovered this secret, whether consciously or unconsciously. They learned to harness the invisible force of belief, not just hoping things would work out, but cultivating such an unshakable inner knowing that their success became inevitable. What separates the truly wealthy from everyone else isn't their starting point, their connections, or even their education. It's their mastery of this one principle that most people will never grasp. Subscribe to unlock the hidden secrets of mental mastery and join thousands of conscious creators transforming their financial reality. Your mind doesn't distinguish between what's vividly imagined and what's physically real. This isn't metaphysical speculation, it's a measurable phenomenon that neuroscience is finally beginning to understand. When you truly grasp this principle and learn to direct it with precision, you stop being a victim of circumstances and become the architect of your destiny. The question isn't whether this works. The question is whether you're ready to take complete responsibility for your financial future. Because once you understand what I'm about to share with you, there are no more excuses, no more external forces to blame, and no more reasons to accept anything less than the abundant life you deserve. Now, I want to go even deeper into this revelation because what I'm about to share will completely shift how you understand the mechanics of success. The hidden truth is that thought isn't some abstract concept floating around in your head. It's an invisible but incredibly real force that operates with the same precision as gravity or electricity. Every thought you repeat with genuine emotion doesn't just disappear into thin air. Instead, it generates a mental image that gets installed directly into your subconscious mind, like software being uploaded to a computer. And here's the kicker. Your subconscious doesn't question, analyze, or filter these instructions. It simply obeys them with mechanical precision. This means that right now, as you're processing this information, your mind is either working for you or against you based on the dominant thoughts you've been feeding it. If you've been thinking thoughts of limitation, scarcity, or impossibility, your subconscious has been faithfully executing those instructions, creating circumstances that match exactly what you've been programming it to expect. But the transformation happens when you realize something profound. You have complete control over this process. The same mechanism that has been creating your current reality can be redirected to create something entirely different. However, there's one critical factor that most people never discover, and it's the reason why positive thinking alone doesn't work for the majority of those who try it. The hidden enemy in this entire process is doubt. Every time you doubt, you're not just having a negative thought, you're actively cancelling the energy of every positive thought you've had. Every moment you allow fear to creep in, you're sabotaging your own creation process, like someone trying to build a house while simultaneously tearing down the foundation. This is why some people can visualize and affirm for years without seeing real change in their lives. They're unknowingly operating with one foot on the gas and one on the brake. Their conscious mind is saying, "I want wealth and success," while their subconscious programming whispers, "But that's not realistic for someone like me." The breakthrough comes when you understand that you have the power to train your mind to sustain positive and persistent belief without the contamination of doubt. This isn't about blind optimism or pretending problems don't exist. It's about developing such unshakable inner knowing that external circumstances become irrelevant to your sense of certainty. When you achieve this level of mental mastery, something remarkable happens. Wealth begins to respond to you, not because you're forcing it or chasing it, but because your focused mind with total belief becomes like a powerful magnet that naturally attracts the resources, opportunities, and people needed to manifest your vision. Behind the scenes of this journey, the most successful people in the world, whether they realize it or not, have mastered this invisible skill. They've learned to maintain their inner vision, regardless of temporary setbacks or external noise. Their decisions come from a place of unwavering faith rather than reactive fear. And this fundamental difference in their mental approach creates entirely different results in their lives. Understanding this principle means you can stop being at the mercy of circumstances and start being the conscious creator of your experience. The transformation begins the moment you take full responsibility for the thoughts you're allowing to dominate your mental landscape. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to master my thoughts," if this resonates with you and you're committed to applying this understanding to create real change in your life. The real revelation in this journey of transformation lies in understanding that you possess a mental muscle that nobody ever taught you how to use. Think about it for a moment. You've been educated on how to use your physical muscles, how to develop skills with your hands, how to train your voice. But when did anyone ever show you how to systematically strengthen the most powerful tool you have access to? Your mind operates like a sophisticated laboratory where reality literally takes shape. This isn't some mystical concept. This is the actual mechanics of how your experience gets created moment by moment. The fascinating discovery that neuroscientists have made is that your mind genuinely cannot differentiate between what's real and what's vividly imagined. It processes both with identical neural pathways and physiological responses. This means that when you repeatedly imagine yourself succeeding, your brain is actually rehearsing success. When you visualize abundance flowing into your life with genuine emotion, your nervous system begins to adapt to that reality before it even manifests physically. Your mind doesn't question the source of the information. It simply follows orders and executes whatever script you've programmed it with through your dominant thoughts and mental imagery. Become part of our inner circle of wealth creators by hitting subscribe, where ancient wisdom meets modern transformation techniques. Behind the scenes of every major breakthrough in someone's life, you'll find this principle at work. The person who transforms their financial situation isn't just working harder. They've discovered how to work their mental muscle with precision and consistency. They've learned to feed their subconscious mind such compelling and emotionally charged images of success that their entire nervous system begins to orient itself toward making those images real. The hidden truth that separates those who achieve extraordinary results from those who struggle despite their efforts is this: belief isn't just a nice positive attitude or hopeful thinking. Belief is actually the triggering factor that sets in motion the mental forces necessary to achieve any purpose you can conceive. When you generate strong, constant, emotion-charged internal belief, you're not just feeling good about your goals. You're literally activating dormant capabilities within your own consciousness. This is where most people miss the mark entirely. They treat their beliefs like optional accessories to their journey rather than recognizing them as the fundamental operating system that determines what becomes possible in their experience. Your beliefs aren't pretty thoughts floating around in your head. They're internal orders that your subconscious mind receives as sacred instructions to be carried out with unwavering dedication. When you truly understand this mechanism, you realize that you can tear down any external limit simply by changing the internal commands you're giving yourself. The limitations you've accepted as permanent fixtures in your life are actually just the result of commands you've been unconsciously programming into your mental computer through repetitive doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs. The impact of this realization can be immediate and profound. Suddenly, you're no longer at the mercy of circumstances, market conditions, or other people's decisions about your worth. You become the conscious programmer of your own experience, deliberately, choosing what kind of reality you want to create, and then systematically installing the beliefs that will make that reality inevitable. This mental muscle grows stronger every time you consciously choose empowering thoughts over disempowering ones. Every time you maintain your inner vision despite external evidence to the contrary, and every time you act from faith rather than fear. The more you exercise this capability, the more responsive your external world becomes to your internal directions. The journey from where you are now to where you want to be isn't primarily about changing your actions, though action is certainly important. It's about changing the fundamental programming that drives those actions. When your belief system truly shifts at the core level, your decisions automatically align with that new programming, and your results shift accordingly. Write in the comments, "I'm programming my success," if you're beginning to see how this mental muscle could transform your approach to creating the life you want. The transformation that occurs when you begin consciously programming your mental muscle is unlike anything most people have ever experienced. Just like any physical muscle in your body, your mind responds to consistent training and becomes stronger, more responsive, and more capable over time. The revelation here is that if you don't deliberately train this mental muscle, it doesn't remain neutral. It actually weakens and becomes susceptible to whatever random programming it receives from your environment, the media, other people's opinions, and your past conditioning. Here's where this gets really interesting and somewhat mind-bending. Most people unknowingly train their mental muscle poorly, feeding it a steady diet of doubt, limitation, and fear-based thinking. This creates a deformed mental framework that consistently generates experiences of struggle, scarcity, and missed opportunities. But when you strengthen this muscle with focused faith and conscious conviction, something remarkable begins to happen behind the scenes of your everyday life. Your mind starts working in your favor in ways that seem almost magical to outside observers. You begin attracting ideas that you never would have thought of before. People enter your life who are perfectly positioned to help you achieve your goals. Coincidences and synchronicities become so frequent that you start to realize they're not coincidences at all. They're the natural result of your aligned mental programming creating order in what previously seemed like chaos. The most fascinating aspect of this process is how it reprograms your perception of what's actually possible in your life. Opportunities that were always present but invisible to you suddenly become obvious. Resources that existed all along but were outside your awareness now appear accessible. This isn't because the external world has changed. It's because your internal receiving mechanism has been fine-tuned to recognize and respond to possibilities that match your new mental programming. The mechanics behind this transformation reveal something profound about how your subconscious mind actually operates. Unlike your conscious mind, which analyzes, judges, and questions everything, your subconscious doesn't engage in reasoning at all. It simply acts on whatever instructions it receives, executing them with mechanical precision and unwavering dedication. It doesn't question whether a belief is empowering or limiting, logical or illogical, helpful or harmful. It simply executes whatever program has been installed most consistently and emotionally. This is simultaneously the most dangerous and most liberating piece of information you can possess about your own psychology. Dangerous because it means you've been unconsciously programming yourself for years without realizing the consequences. Liberating because it means you can consciously reprogram yourself starting right now, regardless of your past or current circumstances. The key to building a new mental structure lies in understanding that your subconscious mind responds most powerfully to repetition combined with vivid imagery and intense emotion. When you mentally repeat what you desire while simultaneously creating detailed mental pictures and feeling the emotions you would experience if those desires were already fulfilled, you're essentially building new neural pathways and mental frameworks that your subconscious will automatically convert into physical reality. This process happens whether you're aware of it or not. The question is whether you're going to take conscious control of what gets programmed or continue allowing random experiences, other people's opinions, and inherited limiting beliefs to shape your internal landscape. The people who achieve extraordinary results have discovered how to become deliberate architects of their own mental programming, rather than passive recipients of whatever thoughts happen to show up. The impact of this understanding extends far beyond just personal achievement. When you truly grasp how your subconscious mind operates and begin working with it intentionally, you develop an unshakable confidence that comes from knowing you have access to the same creative force that shapes all of reality. Write in the comments, "My mind is my ally," if you're ready to start consciously programming your mental muscle for success instead of leaving it to chance. This understanding opens up an even more profound revelation about the nature of reality itself. When you look around at everything in your physical environment right now, the device you're using to watch this, the chair you're sitting in, the building you're in, even the complex systems that deliver electricity, internet, and all the modern conveniences you take for granted, every single one of these things existed first as a mental image in someone's mind before it ever became tangible. The hidden truth that most people never consider is that your mind isn't just a place where you passively imagine things or daydream about possibilities. Your mind is actually the factory where the blueprints of the universe you're experiencing are being designed moment by moment. Every thought you think with emotional intensity is essentially creating an architectural plan that reality uses as a template for what to manifest in your physical experience. This is where the journey from dreaming to creating becomes absolutely critical to understand. There's a fundamental difference between someone who simply wishes for better circumstances and someone who becomes a conscious creator of their reality. The dreamer hopes that somehow, someday, things will magically improve. They might visualize occasionally, they might set goals, but they don't maintain a consistent internal image of their desired outcome. Their mental pictures change based on their moods, their current circumstances, or whatever challenges they're facing. The conscious creator, on the other hand, has discovered the power of holding a defined image in their mind with such unwavering trust and consistency that manifestation becomes inevitable rather than hopeful. They understand that everything they will ever achieve is already being created at the invisible level through the sustained mental imagery they maintain regardless of external circumstances. Behind the scenes of every major transformation in human history, you'll find this principle at work. The Wright brothers didn't just hope that humans could fly, they held such a clear and sustained mental image of people soaring through the air that they persisted through failure after failure until reality matched their internal vision. Every successful entrepreneur, every breakthrough inventor, every person who has created lasting wealth or impact has learned to hold their vision so consistently that their external world had no choice but to conform to their internal certainty. The revelation here is that you're always creating through mental imagery, whether you realize it or not. The question is whether you're creating consciously through deliberate, sustained, emotionally charged images of what you want, or unconsciously through random, fearful, or limiting mental pictures that keep recreating the same patterns you're trying to escape. Most people's mental imagery is chaotic and contradictory. One moment, they're visualizing success and abundance. The next moment, they're imagining all the ways things could go wrong. One day they see themselves as capable and deserving. The next day they're focused on their limitations and past failures. This inconsistent mental programming creates inconsistent results and keeps them trapped in cycles of almost achieving their goals but never quite breaking through to sustained success. The transformation occurs when you realize that your internal world is the cause and your external world is the effect, not the other way around. This means that instead of waiting for your circumstances to improve so you can feel better and think more positively, you begin with creating such a compelling and consistent internal image that your circumstances have no choice but to improve, to match your mental programming. What distinguishes those who achieve extraordinary results is their ability to maintain their internal vision even when, especially when, their current reality looks nothing like what they're creating. They've learned to live from their future rather than from their past. And this fundamental shift in perspective changes everything about how they make decisions, take action, and respond to challenges. Write in the comments, "I design my reality," if you're beginning to understand how your mental images are literally creating the blueprint for your future experiences. The most startling realization in this entire journey comes when you discover that wealth isn't actually the result of what you do. It's the direct outcome of what you're capable of seeing clearly within yourself. This completely inverts everything you've been taught about creating financial success. Instead of focusing primarily on external strategies, market conditions, or working harder than everyone else, you begin to understand that your internal vision is the determining factor that shapes everything else. This requires a fundamental shift in how you approach your daily practice of creation. You must learn to sit in silence, breathe deeply, and allow yourself to dream with genuine intention rather than passive hoping. This isn't about casual daydreaming or wishful thinking. This is about deliberately constructing detailed mental blueprints of the wealth and success you intend to manifest. The transformation happens when you begin to hold that image with such strength and emotion that it becomes more real to you than your current circumstances. Behind the scenes of this process, something remarkable occurs that most people never experience because they give up too early or don't maintain the necessary consistency. When you repeatedly return to the same vivid mental image of your abundant life, feeding it with genuine emotion and unwavering faith, you're essentially programming your subconscious mind to recognize opportunities, resources, and connections that align with that vision. The key revelation here is understanding the difference between superficial desires and the kind of deep, sustained mental imagery that actually activates universal forces. Most people want wealth in a general, vague way. They might say, "I want to be rich," or "I wish I had more money." But they never take the time to create a detailed, emotionally compelling vision of what that actually looks like in their daily experience. The universe, however, operates with mathematical precision. It doesn't respond to wishy-washy hopes or half-hearted desires. It responds to clear images that are sustained with absolute conviction through focused visualization. When you can see, feel, hear, and emotionally experience your wealthy life with such clarity that your nervous system responds as if it's already happening, you've activated the mechanism that makes manifestation inevitable rather than accidental. This is where the practice becomes both an art and a science. The art lies in creating mental images that are so compelling and detailed that they generate genuine emotional responses in your body. The science lies in understanding that your subconscious mind will work tirelessly to create external circumstances that match whatever internal experience you're consistently providing it. The people who achieve extraordinary wealth aren't necessarily the most talented, the most educated, or even the most connected. They're the ones who have learned to maintain such unwavering internal certainty about their success that their external reality has no choice but to conform to their mental programming. They've discovered that persistence in visualization is more powerful than persistence in physical action alone. The impact of this understanding extends beyond just financial success. When you truly grasp that your sustained mental images are constantly communicating with invisible forces that orchestrate circumstances, people, and opportunities, you begin to take complete responsibility for your internal landscape. You realize that every moment you spend doubting, worrying, or imagining worst-case scenarios is actually working against your stated goals. This doesn't mean ignoring practical realities or avoiding necessary action. It means understanding that your actions become exponentially more effective when they're aligned with a clear, sustained internal vision rather than being driven by fear, desperation, or reactive thinking. Your decisions start coming from a place of knowing rather than hoping, and this fundamental shift in your decision-making process changes everything about your results. The journey to mastering this ability requires treating your visualization practice as seriously as any other skill you've developed in your life. Just as you wouldn't expect to become physically fit from one workout, you can't expect to reshape your reality from one visualization session. Write in the comments, "I see my success clearly," if you're committed to developing this sustained inner vision that transforms external circumstances. Now I want to explore the invisible game changer that separates those who achieve their vision from those who remain stuck in endless cycles of trying. This force is so subtle that most people completely overlook it. Yet it's so powerful that when properly understood and activated, it can break through any self-imposed limit you've been carrying. We're talking about faith, but not in the religious sense that most people immediately think of. This is mental certainty, a type of inner knowing so firm and unshakable that you no longer need external proof to maintain your conviction. This kind of faith operates on a completely different level than hope or positive thinking. Hope says, maybe this will work out. Positive thinking says, I'm going to try to believe this is possible. But faith says, this is already done. I'm just waiting for the physical world to catch up. Here's the revelation that changes everything, that certainty doesn't magically appear after you start seeing results. It's actually the complete opposite. Results arrive when that certainty appears first. This inverts the entire process that most people are following. They're waiting to see evidence before they truly believe, but the evidence is waiting for them to truly believe before it appears. Behind the scenes of every major transformation, you'll find someone who developed this unshakable inner knowing before they had any logical reason to believe. They cultivated such deep certainty about their outcome that external circumstances became irrelevant to their sense of conviction. This is what allowed them to persist when others would have given up, to take risks that seemed foolish to outside observers, and to maintain their vision even when the entire world seemed to be telling them it wasn't possible. The mechanism that makes this level of certainty possible lies in understanding how your mind processes repeated information. Your subconscious mind literally doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's vividly imagined. When you repeat something with genuine emotion, your subconscious accepts it as truth without question or analysis. This isn't a flaw in your mental programming. It's actually the feature that makes all learning and growth possible. Think about this carefully. Once your subconscious mind accepts something as truth, there truly is no turning back. The idea becomes integrated into your core belief system and begins influencing every decision you make, every opportunity you notice, and every action you take. This is how ideas transform into concrete plans. Plans develop into consistent habits, and habits inevitably generate tangible results. The transformation happens through the power of repetition combined with emotional intensity. Each time you return to your vision with genuine feeling, you're strengthening the neural pathways associated with that outcome. You're literally rewiring your brain to operate from the assumption that your success is not just possible, but inevitable. This isn't wishful thinking. This is how champions in every field develop the unshakable confidence that allows them to perform at levels that seem impossible to others. Most people underestimate the cumulative impact of this mental programming process because they expect immediate external changes. They repeat their affirmations or visualize their goals for a few days or weeks, and when they don't, see dramatic shifts in their circumstances, they conclude that the process doesn't work. But the real transformation is happening at a much deeper level. Your subconscious mind is busy reorganizing your entire internal landscape, adjusting your self-concept, shifting your perception of what's possible, and gradually aligning all of your automatic behaviors with your new programming. This internal reorganization must happen first before external changes can follow naturally and sustainably. The journey from where you are now to where you want to be isn't primarily about changing your external strategies. Though action is certainly important, it's about changing the fundamental programming that drives your decisions, shapes your expectations, and determines what you notice as possible in any given situation. Write in the comments, "I believe before I see," if you're ready to develop this kind of unshakable certainty that precedes and creates results rather than waiting for results to justify your belief. This brings us to one of the most profound revelations about the nature of reality itself and why some people seem to effortlessly attract success while others struggle despite their best efforts. Your imagination, when properly directed with unwavering faith, isn't just a mental playground where you escape from reality. It's actually a living bridge between the invisible world of potential and the visible world of experience. The hidden truth that most people never grasp is that reality isn't some fixed external creation that exists independently of you. Reality is actually a replica of your mental state, continuously shaped and reshaped by the dominant thoughts, emotions, and images you maintain in your consciousness. This means that when you observe someone who appears to be naturally successful, wealthy, or magnetic, You're not witnessing someone who got lucky or who had advantages you lack. You're seeing someone who has learned to mold their inner world with such firmness and consistency that their external circumstances have no choice but to mirror that internal state. Behind the scenes of every extraordinary life, you'll discover this principle operating with mathematical precision. The transformation from ordinary to extraordinary doesn't happen through external manipulation or lucky breaks. It happens through mastering the art of inner world construction. These individuals have discovered that by taking complete control of their mental landscape, they gain indirect but absolute control over their external experience. The journey to understanding this reveals something that initially seems almost impossible to believe. Everything you see in the physical world around you began first as an image in someone's mind. That smartphone you're holding, the complex financial systems that move money around the globe, the technologies that seem magical to previous generations, all of it started as invisible mental imagery before it became tangible reality. This understanding completely reframes how you think about wealth creation. Wealth isn't actually a thing that exists out there waiting to be captured or earned. Wealth is a mental frequency, a particular vibrational state that you can learn to access and maintain regardless of your current circumstances. When you sustain a mental image of abundance with genuine emotion and clear intention, you're not just daydreaming or engaging in wishful thinking. You're actually molding the invisible field that creates physical reality. The implications of this revelation extend far beyond personal success. You begin to realize that the entire structure of your experience, your relationships, your health, your opportunities, your challenges, everything is being continuously created through the invisible activity of consciousness, interacting with the field of infinite potential that surrounds you. Most people approach wealth creation backwards. They try to manipulate external conditions, chase opportunities, or copy the strategies of successful people without understanding that those external manifestations are merely the end result of specific internal states. They're trying to create the effect without mastering the cause, which is why their results remain inconsistent and often unsustainable. The transformation occurs when you realize that thought isn't just something that happens inside your head with no real impact on the world around you. Thought is actually the master key that unlocks and reshapes every aspect of your experience. Each sustained thought, especially when charged with emotion and clear intention, sends out vibrational signals that interact with the quantum field of possibilities and gradually organize circumstances to match your internal programming. This process is happening constantly whether you're aware of it or not. The question is whether you're going to take conscious control of this creative mechanism or continue allowing random thoughts, inherited beliefs, and unconscious programming to shape your reality by default. The people who achieve extraordinary results have simply learned to become deliberate rather than accidental in their use of this fundamental creative force. Write in the comments, "I am the bridge," if you're beginning to understand how your inner world directly creates your outer experience and you're ready to take conscious control of this process. Now I want to reveal the silent language that's constantly communicating on your behalf, whether you realize it or not. This is the language that determines what shows up in your life far more than any words you speak or goals you write down. Everything you think with genuine intensity doesn't just exist as mental activity, it actually vibrates. And that vibration doesn't simply disappear into thin air. It becomes woven into the fabric of reality itself, continuously broadcasting a signal about what you're available to receive and experience. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that you don't attract what you say you want. And you don't even attract what you consciously desire. You attract what you are vibrationally. And what you are is determined by the cumulative frequency of your dominant thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. This means that every emotion you feel regularly, every belief you hold unconsciously, and every thought pattern you repeat is essentially speaking a language that the universe responds to with mathematical precision behind the scenes of your everyday experience. This invisible communication system is operating constantly. When you're worried about money, you're not just having a thought. You're broadcasting a frequency of scarcity that attracts more circumstances to worry about. When you feel grateful for what you have while simultaneously expecting more good things to come, you're transmitting a frequency of abundance that magnetizes opportunities, resources, and positive experiences. The transformation occurs when you realize that most people are completely unaware of what they're broadcasting vibrationally. They might say they want wealth and success, but their internal frequency is dominated by doubt, fear, resentment, or feelings of unworthiness. They wonder why their positive affirmations don't seem to work, not realizing that their words are being completely overwhelmed by their much more powerful vibrational signal. This is where the true mastery begins to emerge, when you learn to unite a clear mental image of what you want with intense positive emotion, like joy, certainty, gratitude, or genuine enthusiasm. You're not just thinking positively. You're sending a direct order to the universe. You're essentially declaring through your vibrational frequency, this is what I am, this is what I vibrate, this is what I attract. The impact of this understanding extends far beyond just manifesting material things. When you truly grasp that your vibrational state is your primary means of communication with reality, you begin to take complete responsibility for your internal landscape. You realize that every moment spent in anxiety, resentment, or victimhood is actually working against your stated goals by broadcasting a frequency that attracts more of what you don't want. The hidden truth that most people miss is that changing your vibration is infinitely more powerful than changing your words, your actions, or even your external circumstances. When you shift your internal frequency first, your words naturally become more powerful, your actions become more effective, and your circumstances begin to shift to match your new vibrational signature. This doesn't mean you should ignore practical realities or avoid taking necessary action. It means understanding that your actions become exponentially more effective when they're aligned with a vibrational frequency that supports your goals rather than contradicts them. When your internal state matches what you're trying to create externally, you stop pushing against invisible resistance and start flowing with natural creative forces. The journey to mastering your vibrational frequency requires developing a heightened awareness of your internal state throughout the day. Most people spend their entire lives on vibrational autopilot, allowing their emotions to be determined by external circumstances, other people's moods, or random thoughts that pop into their consciousness. But when you become conscious of your vibrational state, you can begin to deliberately choose emotions and thoughts that support your vision rather than sabotage it. You start to realize that feeling successful before you achieve external success isn't just positive thinking. It's actually a practical strategy for aligning your vibrational frequency with your desired outcome. Write in the comments, "I choose my vibration," if you're ready to take conscious control of the silent language that's shaping your reality instead of leaving it to chance. The deeper you go into understanding this process, the more you realize that there's a golden seed already planted within you that contains everything you need to create the life you truly want. This seed isn't some mystical concept. It's the fundamental principle that what you think about constantly, you inevitably become. What you visualize with unwavering conviction, you naturally attract. What you feel with genuine emotion, you actually create in your physical reality. The turning point that most people spend their entire lives waiting for isn't hiding somewhere out there in the external world. It's not dependent on the economy improving, the right opportunity appearing, or someone else giving you permission to succeed. The transformation you're seeking is completely internal, determined not by destiny or luck, but by a fundamental change in your way of thinking and, more importantly, your way of being. Behind the scenes of every major breakthrough, you'll discover someone who stopped waiting for external conditions to change and instead decided to change their internal conditions first. They planted new seeds in the fertile ground of their consciousness and then nurtured those seeds with consistent attention, emotion, and most crucially, aligned action. This brings us to one of the most critical revelations in this entire journey. Faith without action remains nothing more than wishful thinking. But when you learn to act from a place of complete conviction, the universe responds as if you've activated some kind of cosmic switch. The real magic doesn't happen in meditation alone or through visualization by itself. It begins when your inner certainty translates into decisive, emotionally charged action in the physical world. The transformation occurs when you understand that your mind influences matter, but only when your mental programming is backed by firm and persistent action that aligns with your vision. This isn't about taking massive action from a place of desperation or fear. It's about taking inspired action from a place of absolute knowing, acting as if your success is already guaranteed, because in your mind, it is. Most people either get stuck in the planning phase, endlessly visualizing and affirming without ever moving, or they take frantic action without the internal foundation to support sustainable results. The people who achieve extraordinary outcomes have discovered how to marry unshakable inner conviction with consistent, purposeful action that flows naturally from that conviction. The hidden truth is that when you act convinced, when your actions carry the energy of someone who knows their success is inevitable, rather than someone who's hoping it might be possible, your behavior changes in subtle but powerful ways. You make different decisions. You communicate with different energy. You persist through challenges that would stop others, and you notice opportunities that remain invisible to those operating from uncertainty. This convinced action creates what can only be described as magic, not because of supernatural forces, but because when your thoughts, emotions, and actions are all aligned in the same direction, you become an unstoppable force moving toward your vision. Your entire nervous system begins operating from the assumption of success rather than the fear of failure. And this fundamental shift changes everything about how you show up in the world. The journey from where you are to where you want to be isn't just about changing your thoughts or even changing your actions in isolation. It's about creating coherence between your inner world and your outer world, so that every thought supports your vision, every emotion fuels your progress, and every action moves you closer to your inevitable outcome. When this alignment happens, people around you will notice something different about your energy, your confidence, and your results, but they won't understand the invisible foundation that's creating these visible changes. They'll attribute your success to luck, talent, or circumstances, not realizing that you've simply learned to operate from a different frequency than most people ever discover. Write in the comments, "I act with conviction," if you're ready to move beyond just thinking about your goals and start taking the kind of convinced action that makes transformation inevitable. This understanding leads us to perhaps the most profound realization about your true creative capacity. You are not just a passive observer of reality. You are the alchemist, and your mind is the crucible where the raw material of possibility gets transformed into the gold of physical experience. This isn't poetic metaphor. This is the actual mechanism through which every extraordinary achievement in human history has been created. The power of concentrated thought is the hidden secret that separates those who achieve remarkable results from those who remain stuck in cycles of mediocrity despite their best efforts. When you learn to focus your mental energy with laser-like precision on a specific outcome, you're not just daydreaming or engaging in positive thinking. You're literally melting down the formless substance of potential and reshaping it into exactly what you want to experience. The transformation happens when you understand that what you believe with genuine intensity, you create with absolute certainty. This isn't wishful thinking or some new age fantasy. This is how the universe actually operates at the deepest level. Your concentrated thoughts act like a powerful magnetic field that draws together all the elements, people, circumstances, and opportunities needed to manifest your vision in physical form. Behind the scenes of every breakthrough invention, every successful business, every life-changing transformation, you'll find someone who mastered the art of mental concentration. They learned to hold their vision so clearly and consistently that their external world had no choice but to reorganize itself to match their internal certainty. This is why some people can achieve in months what others struggle toward for years without ever reaching. The journey to mastering this ability requires understanding that visualization isn't just imagining nice things happening to you. The art of seeing with the mind is actually the secret. Technology that converts invisible ideas into tangible realities. When you hold an image firmly in your mind with genuine emotion and unwavering faith, you're engaging in one of the most powerful creative acts available to human consciousness. This process works according to a simple but profound principle. What you hold firmly in your mental vision will sooner or later manifest in your physical life. This isn't a maybe or a possibility. This is a law as reliable as gravity. The only variable is how clearly you can see, how consistently you can maintain your vision, and how completely you can believe in the inevitable manifestation of what you're creating internally. The revelation that changes everything is realizing that you don't have to wait until you possess something externally to experience the reality of having it. When you believe you have what you desire, when you can feel it, see it, and live from that assumption internally, you will have it externally. When you believe you are who you want to become, when you can embody that identity in your thoughts, emotions, and actions, you will be that person in every measurable way. Most people approach this backwards. They think they need to see external evidence before they can truly believe. But the external evidence is waiting for their belief to become strong enough to support its manifestation. They're trying to create the effect without mastering the cause, which is why their results remain inconsistent and often disappointing. The transformation occurs when you realize that your mind is the creative laboratory where your future is being designed and constructed right now. Every moment you spend in concentrated focus on your desired outcome is like adding ingredients to a recipe that will eventually become your lived experience. The more precise your mental imagery, the more consistent your emotional engagement, and the more unwavering your faith, the faster and more completely your vision materializes. This requires treating your visualization practice as seriously as any other skill that matters to you. Just as you wouldn't expect to become physically fit from occasional exercise, you can't expect to reshape your reality through sporadic mental focus. The people who achieve extraordinary results have learned to make concentrated thought a daily practice, a sacred ritual that gradually builds such powerful momentum that manifestation becomes inevitable. Write in the comments, "I am the creator of my reality," if you're ready to embrace your role as the conscious alchemist of your own experience and commit to the daily practice of concentrated thought. Now, I want to reveal something that might initially seem overwhelming, but is actually incredibly empowering once you fully grasp its implications. Every single clear thought you sustain and charge with genuine emotion isn't just mental activity happening inside your head, it's actually an instruction being sent directly to the invisible field that creates everything in your experience. This means that right now, as you're processing this information, you're continuously broadcasting orders to the creative intelligence that governs the universe. When you imagine something with true faith, not hope or wishful thinking, but genuine knowing, you're establishing a vibrational pattern that universal intelligence takes as a detailed guide for creation. You're essentially providing the blueprint that invisible forces use to orchestrate circumstances, align opportunities, and bring together the elements needed to manifest your vision in physical form. The profound implication of this understanding is that your creative force never stops working. Whether you're awake or asleep, focused or distracted, optimistic or worried, your mind is constantly active, continuously molding your life, even when you're completely unaware of the process. Every thought you repeat with emotional intensity tends to materialize because your constantly operating consciousness is always communicating with the field of infinite possibilities that surrounds you behind the scenes of your everyday experience. This invisible creative mechanism is operating with perfect precision. When you focus intensely on an idea, whether it's something you want or something you fear, your mind literally imprints that image in the universal substance that responds to conscious direction. This is why people often experience exactly what they've been obsessing about, whether positive or negative, and wonder how their thoughts seem to predict or create their reality. The transformation occurs when you realize that this creative force has been working on your behalf your entire life. But until now, you may have been giving it conflicting or unconscious instructions. Most people's thoughts are chaotic, contradictory, and driven more by reaction to circumstances than by deliberate intention. They worry about what they don't want, imagine worst-case scenarios, and reinforce limiting beliefs through repetitive mental patterns, then wonder why their lives seem to reflect those very patterns. The journey to conscious creation begins when you understand that you can take deliberate control of this process instead of leaving it to operate randomly. Instead of being a victim of unconscious mental programming, you can become the conscious director of your own creative force. This doesn't mean you have to monitor every single thought. That would be exhausting and counterproductive. It means becoming aware of your dominant mental patterns and gradually shifting them to align with what you actually want to create. The hidden truth is that universal intelligence is completely neutral. It doesn't judge whether your thoughts are good or bad, beneficial or harmful. It simply responds to whatever instructions you give it, most consistently and emotionally. If you repeatedly imagine failure, it will arrange circumstances that support that expectation. If you consistently visualize success with genuine feeling, it will orchestrate events that align with that vision. This understanding places enormous responsibility on your shoulders, but it also gives you incredible power. Once you truly grasp that your thoughts are constantly shaping your reality, you can no longer blame external circumstances for your life conditions. You become the conscious architect of your experience rather than a passive recipient of random events. The impact of this realization extends far beyond just achieving personal goals. When you understand that your mental activity is continuously influencing the invisible forces that create your reality, you begin to treat your thoughts as sacred tools rather than random mental chatter. Every moment becomes an opportunity to consciously participate in the creation of your future rather than unconsciously recreating your past. Write in the comments, "I send clear instructions," if you're ready to take conscious control of the orders you're sending to the creative intelligence of the universe. This brings us to perhaps the most liberating yet challenging truth you'll ever encounter about creating the life you want. You cannot receive more than what you're willing to accept mentally. No matter how hard you work, how many opportunities come your way, or how desperately you want things to change, this isn't a limitation imposed by the universe. It's a protective mechanism built into the very fabric of reality that ensures you only experience what you're internally prepared to handle and sustain. The profound implication of this revelation is that if you believe deep within yourself that abundance, success, or extraordinary achievement simply isn't for someone like you, then no amount of external action, no matter how perfectly executed, will be sufficient to override that internal programming. You might experience temporary improvements or lucky breaks, but they won't stick because your consciousness isn't equipped to accept and maintain them at a fundamental level. The hidden truth that most people resist acknowledging is that the universe doesn't respond to your conscious desires, your written goals, or even your desperate prayers. It responds with mathematical precision to your internal conviction, what you truly believe is possible and appropriate for you at the deepest levels of your consciousness. This means that all the vision boards, affirmations, and positive thinking in the world won't create lasting change if your core identity and belief system remain unchanged. Behind the scenes of every sustainable transformation, you'll find someone who expanded their internal capacity to accept greater levels of success, wealth, love, or fulfillment before those things manifested externally. They didn't just change their actions or strategies, they fundamentally altered their self-concept and their sense of what was possible and deserved for someone like them. The journey to mastering this principle requires understanding that your mind operates as the matrix, the foundational template from which all of your external experiences are created. Every single thing you see in the visible world, from the most complex technological innovations to the simplest everyday objects, was preceded by an invisible image held firmly in someone's mind. That person's internal conviction became so strong that reality had no choice but to conform to their mental blueprint. The transformation happens when you realize that everything you will ever achieve will be a direct projection of what you're currently holding inside you at the invisible level. Your bank account is a projection of your money consciousness. Your relationships reflect your beliefs about what you deserve in terms of love and connection. Your health mirrors your internal beliefs about vitality and well-being. Your career success is a direct manifestation of how you see yourself and what you believe is possible for someone with your background and capabilities. This understanding completely shifts how you approach personal development. Instead of focusing primarily on external strategies, techniques, or actions, you begin to recognize that the most important work happens in the invisible realm of consciousness. Every limiting belief you dissolve, every expansion of your self-concept, every increase in your sense of worthiness creates space for greater external manifestations. Most people spend their entire lives trying to change their circumstances without ever addressing the internal template that keeps recreating those circumstances. They're essentially trying to change the projection while leaving the projector untouched. But when you learn to work at the level of consciousness, when you expand your internal capacity to accept greater possibilities, your external world automatically begins to shift to match your new internal state. The revelation that changes. Everything is recognizing that you have complete control over this internal matrix. You can consciously choose what beliefs to accept, what self-concept to embody, and what level of success, abundance, and fulfillment feels natural and appropriate for you. This isn't about convincing yourself of things that aren't true. It's about expanding your definition of what's true for you. The deeper you venture into understanding this creative process, the more you discover that your mind operates according to a completely different language than most people realize. While you might think your mind processes words, concepts, and logical thoughts, the truth is far more visual and immediate. Your mind doesn't actually work with words at all. It works exclusively with images, and these mental pictures are far more powerful than any verbal affirmations or written goals you could ever create. Write in the comments, "I expand my inner capacity," if you're ready to do the invisible work of consciousness expansion that makes all external transformation possible and sustainable. Every mental image you sustain firmly in your consciousness doesn't remain static or theoretical. It becomes reality with the same inevitability that a seed becomes a plant when given the right conditions. This isn't metaphorical language. This is the actual mechanism through which all creation occurs. What you visualize with genuine faith and crystal clarity, you will inevitably attract. Not because of some mystical force, but because your sustained mental imagery programs your entire nervous system to recognize, pursue, and create the conditions necessary for that image to manifest physically. The revelation that transforms everything is recognizing that absolutely everything you see in the physical world around you, from the most advanced technological marvels to the simplest everyday objects, existed first as a mental image in someone's consciousness. Someone saw it clearly, held that vision with unwavering conviction, and maintained it with such intensity that reality eventually conformed to their internal blueprint. This understanding leads us to a fundamental reorientation about wealth itself that most people never discover, which is why they remain trapped in cycles of financial struggle despite their best efforts. The hidden truth is that you don't attract what you consciously desire or what you say you want. You attract exactly what you are vibrationally. And this makes all the difference between those who achieve lasting prosperity and those who continue chasing it unsuccessfully. Wealth isn't actually a goal to be reached or a destination to arrive at. It's a mental state to be embodied. This completely inverts the approach that most people take toward financial success. While you continue pursuing wealth as if it was something external that you need to capture, acquire, or earn from outside sources, you'll continue pushing it away through the very energy of pursuit, need, and lack that drives that chase. The transformation occurs when you shift from trying to get wealth to becoming someone who naturally vibrates wealth. When you embody the mental state of abundance, when you think, feel, and act from a foundation of prosperity consciousness rather than scarcity, wealth begins to arrive without the forced effort, desperate strategies, or exhausting hustle that characterizes most people's relationship with money. Behind the scenes of every person who seems to effortlessly attract financial success, you'll find someone who has learned to be wealthy internally before manifesting it externally. They've developed the mental images, emotional patterns, and behavioral habits of someone who naturally operates from abundance. Their relationship with money, opportunities, and success flows from an internal state rather than external circumstances. This doesn't mean pretending you have money when you don't, or engaging in reckless financial behavior. It means cultivating the mental and emotional qualities that wealthy people naturally embody: confidence in your value, expectation of success, comfort with receiving, ability to see opportunities, willingness to take calculated risks, and most importantly, the deep knowing that abundance is your natural state rather than something foreign or inappropriate for someone like you. The journey to embodying wealth consciousness requires understanding that your current financial situation is simply a reflection of your past mental states and doesn't determine what's possible moving forward. When you begin consistently holding clear mental images of yourself operating from financial freedom, making decisions from abundance, and experiencing the lifestyle that wealth makes possible, you're not just daydreaming, you're actively reprogramming the template that creates your financial reality. The most profound realization in this entire journey comes when you understand that when your desire transforms from casual wishing into what can only be described as a true and persistent prayer, not religious prayer, but the kind of unwavering internal knowing that comes from your deepest core, the entire universe begins to conspire in silence to respond to that signal. This isn't romantic language or wishful thinking. This is the actual mechanism through which reality reorganizes itself around your dominant mental frequency. Everything surrounding you at this very moment, from the people in your life to the opportunities you encounter, from the challenges you face to the resources available to you, was attracted at some level by the vibrational signal you've been consistently broadcasting through your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. This means your current reality isn't happening to you randomly. It's a perfect reflection of your dominant mental vibration created through the invisible magnetism of consciousness. Write in the comments, "I embody wealth," if you're ready to shift from chasing wealth externally to cultivating it as your natural internal state. Behind the scenes of this process, something remarkable occurs that most people never experience because they give up too early or don't maintain the necessary consistency. When you repeatedly return to the same vivid mental image of your abundant life, feeding it with genuine emotion and unwavering faith, you're essentially programming your subconscious mind to recognize opportunities, resources, and connections that align with that vision. The transformation accelerates when you discover a hidden truth about the nature of creation itself that completely changes how you approach manifesting what you want. Most people believe that willpower is the key to changing their lives. They think they need to push harder, force outcomes, or overcome resistance through sheer determination. But the reality is far more elegant and effortless than that approach suggests. It's not will, but imagination that truly shapes your reality. Will pushes against current circumstances, creating struggle and resistance. But imagination attracts new possibilities by opening pathways that didn't previously exist. When you try to force change through willpower alone, you're essentially declaring war against what is, which only strengthens what is through the energy of opposition you're giving it. Your subconscious mind, which controls the vast majority of your automatic behaviors and responses, doesn't actually respond to pressure, demands, or forced efforts. It responds to clear vision, compelling imagery, and emotionally charged imagination. This is why people who struggle and strain often achieve less than those who seem to flow effortlessly toward their goals. They're working with the natural tendencies of consciousness rather than against them. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that when you create a mental image with genuine clarity, authentic emotion, and unwavering faith, you're not just daydreaming or engaging in positive visualization. You're actually depositing a detailed architectural blueprint in what can only be called the workshop of the invisible, the realm where all physical manifestation begins before it becomes tangible. This workshop operates according to precise laws, just like any physical construction project. The clearer your blueprint, the more accurate the final creation. The more emotion you invest in the design process, the faster construction proceeds. The stronger your faith in the inevitable completion of the project, the more resources become available to support its manifestation. Most people's mental blueprints are vague, inconsistent, and contaminated with doubt, which is why their manifestations are delayed, distorted, or incomplete. But when you learn to create crystal-clear images backed by genuine feeling and absolute certainty, you're essentially placing an order with the creative forces of the universe that must be fulfilled according to natural law. The journey to mastering this ability requires recognizing that your imagination isn't separate from reality. It's actually the factory where reality gets manufactured before it appears in physical form. Every moment you spend in focused, emotionally engaged visualization is time invested in the construction of your future experience. This understanding gives you an extraordinary leverage point for transformation that most people completely miss. Rather than struggling to change your external circumstances through direct force, you begin with changing the internal template from which those circumstances emerge. This isn't avoiding necessary action, it's ensuring that your actions flow from a completely different foundation, making them exponentially more effective. The hidden power of this approach lies in understanding that your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what's vividly imagined and what's physically experienced. When you create a detailed, emotionally engaging mental picture of your desired outcome, and consistently return to that image with unwavering certainty, your nervous system begins responding as if that outcome is already happening. This neurological shift changes everything about how you show up in the world, what opportunities you notice, and what actions feel natural to take. The implications of this revelation extend far beyond just personal success. You begin to realize that the entire structure of your experience, your relationships, your health, your opportunities, your challenges, everything is being continuously created through the invisible activity of consciousness, interacting with the field of infinite potential that surrounds you. Write in the comments, "My imagination creates my world," if you're ready to harness this incredible power and start using your mind as the sophisticated creation tool it was designed to be. Now I want to share with you one of the most liberating revelations you'll ever encounter, one that completely eliminates the fear of scarcity that keeps most people trapped in cycles of limitation. You cannot exhaust the supply of abundance available to you because that supply isn't material. It's spiritual in nature, and spirit is infinite. This isn't religious doctrine or mystical philosophy. This is the fundamental truth about the inexhaustible creative force that underlies all of physical reality, the spiritual substance of all. Visible things is literally inexhaustible because it operates outside the laws of physical limitation. While material resources can be depleted, divided, or hoarded, the invisible essence from which all material things emerge is boundless and constantly renewable. Every single thing you see around you right now, from the most complex technologies to the simplest natural objects, first existed as an idea, a mental form born in the mind of someone who believed in its possibility with sufficient conviction to bring it into manifestation. Behind the scenes of every creation, there's an infinite field of potential waiting to be shaped by focused consciousness. This means that when you tap into this source through clear intention and unwavering belief, you're not competing with anyone else for limited resources. You're accessing a dimension of abundance that expands rather than contracts when more people draw from it. The more people who understand and apply these principles, the more abundance becomes available to everyone. The transformation in your relationship with money, opportunities, and success occurs when you realize that scarcity is always an illusion created by limited thinking, while abundance is the natural state of the universe expressing itself through unlimited creative potential. This shift from scarcity consciousness to abundance consciousness changes everything about how you approach your goals, make decisions, and respond to challenges. This understanding leads to a crucial revelation about how to effectively communicate with the creative intelligence that governs manifestation. By focusing clearly on what you desire, you activate the invisible power that moves everything in your favor. But most people never learn the proper language for this communication. The universe is always listening with perfect attention, but you must know how to speak to it in a way that produces reliable results. The hidden truth that makes all the difference is understanding that the universe responds not to your desperation, your need, or your pleading, but to your clarity and confidence. When you can formulate a clear idea of what you want and maintain that vision with genuine confidence rather than doubt or desperation, you're essentially placing an order with cosmic forces that must be fulfilled according to natural law. This isn't about positive thinking or hopeful wishing. This is about understanding that a clear idea, when maintained with authentic confidence and unwavering focus, creates such a powerful vibrational signal that materialization becomes inevitable rather than hopeful. The law cannot fail because it operates with the same reliability as gravity or any other natural force. It's impersonal, consistent, and absolutely dependable. The journey to mastering this communication requires developing what you might call spiritual confidence, the ability to know that your desires are valid, achievable, and already on their way to you, even before you see physical evidence. This confidence doesn't come from arrogance or wishful thinking. It comes from understanding your true relationship to the infinite creative power that's always available to work through you. Most people approach manifestation from a position of lack, essentially telling the universe about everything they don't have and desperately need. But effective communication with creative forces comes from a position of knowing, acknowledging what you want, with the same confidence you would have in placing an order at a restaurant, clear, specific, and with the expectation that it will be delivered. The incredible impact of what happens in the silence of your own mind when no one else is listening is truly remarkable. In those quiet moments of internal dialogue, you're literally writing the orders that reality will obey tomorrow. This isn't poetic language, this is the actual mechanism through which your future gets programmed and shaped before it ever appears in your physical experience. Well-directed self-suggestion is the precise channel through which faith begins to mold matter into the forms you desire. Write in the comments, "I speak the language of creation," if you're ready to learn how to communicate with the invisible forces that can transform your entire life experience. Most people are completely unaware of the constant stream of self-talk running through their minds. But this internal conversation is perhaps the most important dialogue you'll ever have because it's continuously programming your subconscious mind with instructions about what to create, what to expect, and what's possible for someone like you. The transformation occurs when you realize that it's specifically through repeating an idea charged with genuine emotion that your mind accepts it as a direct order rather than just a passing thought. Your subconscious doesn't analyze or judge these internal suggestions. It simply receives them as commands and begins organizing all of your automatic behaviors, perceptions, and responses to align with whatever you've been consistently telling yourself. Behind the scenes of this process, something remarkable happens that most people never discover. Every repeated thought becomes a belief, every belief becomes an expectation, and every expectation becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is why people who consistently tell themselves, "I never have enough money," continue to experience financial struggle, while those who maintain internal dialogues about abundance and opportunity seem to naturally attract more resources and possibilities. The journey to mastering this invisible force requires understanding that your words, both spoken and unspoken, aren't just random sounds or casual thoughts floating through your consciousness. Every single word you pronounce, whether out loud or silently to yourself, is actually a decree that actively molds your reality by sending specific, vibrational instructions to the creative forces that shape your experience. Words operate as vibrations, as specific frequencies that resonate with the invisible forces that structure reality itself. This means that when you speak or think, you're not just expressing ideas, you're literally creating your world through language by broadcasting signals that attract circumstances, people, and opportunities that match the vibrational signature of your words. This understanding completely changes how You relate to language and communication. Instead of speaking carelessly or allowing random thoughts to dominate your internal landscape, you begin to recognize that every word is a creative act. Every sentence is a spell being cast, and every conversation is an opportunity to consciously direct the creative forces that govern your life experience. The hidden truth that separates those who achieve extraordinary results from those who remain stuck is that successful people often unconsciously have learned to speak and think in ways that support their vision rather than undermine it. They don't waste mental energy describing their problems, complaining about limitations, or reinforcing lack through their language. Instead, they consistently use words that align with their desired outcomes, even when their current circumstances don't yet reflect those possibilities. The impact of this realization extends far beyond just positive thinking or motivational speaking. When you truly understand that your words are vibrational tools that actively shape reality, you become incredibly selective about the language you allow in your mind and the phrases you speak aloud. You start treating your internal dialogue as sacred territory that must be protected from contamination by limiting thoughts, fearful projections, or scarcity-based language. What might be the most transformative understanding in this entire journey requires you to completely reimagine what's possible when human consciousness operates at its full potential. You have the capacity to believe in something with such tremendous force that your conviction literally makes the universe tremble and reorganize itself around your unwavering certainty. This isn't exaggerated language or motivational hyperbole. This is describing the actual power that lies dormant within your consciousness, waiting to be awakened and directed. The fundamental shift that changes everything happens when you realize that your human mind isn't just a sophisticated thought processor analyzing information and making decisions. Your mind is actually a reality generator, continuously creating the world you experience through the beliefs you hold, the emotions you feel, and the mental images you sustain. When you truly decide to believe something is possible and then feed that belief with genuine emotion, vivid visualization, and aligned action, the external world has no choice but to begin moving in your favor. Write in the comments, "I choose my words consciously," if you're ready to harness the incredible creative power of language and start using words as deliberate tools for manifestation rather than unconscious habits that work against your goals. Behind the scenes of your everyday life, something remarkable occurs that most people never witness because they abandon their vision before it has time to fully activate. Your decision to believe with total conviction triggers invisible forces that start rearranging circumstances, attracting opportunities, and aligning resources in ways that seem miraculous to outside observers, but are actually the natural result of focused consciousness operating according to universal law. The revelation that transforms your entire approach to creating the life you want is understanding that the magic of believing isn't a metaphor, a hopeful concept, or an inspiring idea. It's an actual law, as reliable and measurable as gravity or magnetism. When you activate an idea within your mind with total faith, backing it with unwavering emotional commitment and consistent mental rehearsal, your subconscious mind gets to work with tireless dedication, operating without doubt, hesitation, or conflicting signals. This subconscious activation creates what can only be described as a reorganization of reality itself. Your external circumstances begin to shift and change to align perfectly with the belief you've installed at the deepest levels of your consciousness. People who seemed uninterested in helping you suddenly become enthusiastic supporters. Opportunities that were completely invisible before begin appearing regularly. Resources that seemed unavailable start flowing toward you with increasing frequency. The journey to accessing this level of creative power requires understanding that belief isn't just a mental attitude or positive outlook. It's actually a force of nature that reshapes the quantum field of possibilities surrounding your life. When you believe with the kind of intensity and consistency that very few people ever achieve, you're essentially issuing commands to reality that must be obeyed according to the fundamental laws that govern manifestation. Most people's beliefs are weak, inconsistent, and contaminated with doubt, which is why their results remain mediocre and unpredictable. They believe a little bit, doubt a little bit, hope sometimes, worry frequently, and wonder why their lives don't reflect the clarity and power they see in others who seem to effortlessly attract success. The transformation occurs when you make the decision to believe with such complete commitment that doubt becomes impossible, not because you're ignoring reality, but because you've chosen to operate from a higher level of reality where limitation is the illusion and infinite possibility is the truth. This level of faith doesn't come from blind optimism or wishful thinking. It comes from understanding your true relationship to the creative forces of the universe. When you reach this state of absolute conviction, something profound happens in your daily experience. Every action you take carries the energy of inevitability rather than hope. Every decision flows from knowing rather than guessing. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to strengthen your faith rather than evidence that your vision might not be possible. The practical application of everything we've been exploring comes down to a daily practice that separates those who remain dreamers from those who become conscious architects of their reality. Picture this. You wake up each morning not with anxiety about your current circumstances or worry about your challenges, but with a crystal-clear image already formed in your mind of the rich, full, successful life you're creating. This isn't just wishful thinking or morning motivation. This is you stepping into the identity of the person you're becoming before the world even has a chance to remind you of who you used to be. The transformation accelerates exponentially when you learn to speak and act throughout your day as if you're already living that elevated reality. This doesn't mean pretending or being inauthentic. It means making decisions that are coherent with the level of life you're consciously creating, rather than reactive choices based on current limitations or past experiences. When you operate from this elevated frequency, something remarkable happens in your daily interactions and opportunities. The world begins to respond to you differently. People listen to you with greater attention and respect. Doors that seem permanently closed suddenly swing open with ease. Resources that appeared unavailable start flowing toward you naturally. This isn't because you've changed anything external about your circumstances. It's because you've changed the fundamental vibration you're broadcasting, and reality is simply reflecting back the new signal you're transmitting. Write in the comments, I believe with unstoppable force, if you're ready to access this level of conviction that literally moves mountains and transforms impossible dreams into inevitable realities. Behind the scenes of this journey lies a profound truth that's being revealed to you right now. Every moment you spend in concentrated focus on your desired outcome is like planting a seed in the fertile soil of universal intelligence. This practice requires treating your visualization as seriously as any other skill that you're committed to mastering. There's a fundamental difference between someone who casually hopes things will improve someday and someone who deliberately constructs their reality through consistent mental rehearsal. The practical reality of this transformation emerges when you begin your day by sitting in silence, breathing deeply, and allowing your mind to create with genuine intention. This isn't casual daydreaming. It's the deliberate construction of mental blueprints that the universe responds to with mathematical precision. When you hold an image with such strength and emotion that it becomes more real to you than your current circumstances, You've activated the mechanism that makes manifestation inevitable rather than accidental. Think about this carefully. The universe doesn't respond to wishy-washy hopes or vague desires. It responds to clear, emotionally charged mental pictures that you maintain with unwavering certainty. The key revelation here is understanding the difference between someone who wants success in a general way and someone who can see, feel, hear, and emotionally experience their wealthy life with such clarity that their nervous system responds as if it's already happening. This is where the artistry of conscious creation begins to shine. The art lies in creating mental images that are so compelling and detailed that they generate genuine emotional responses in your body. The science lies in understanding that your subconscious mind will work tirelessly to create external circumstances that match whatever internal experience you're consistently providing it. The people who achieve extraordinary wealth aren't necessarily the most talented, educated, or connected. They're the ones who have learned to maintain such unwavering internal certainty about their success that their external reality has no choice but to conform to their mental programming. They've discovered that persistence in visualization is more powerful than persistence in physical action alone. When you truly grasp that your sustained mental images are constantly communicating with invisible forces that orchestrate circumstances, people, and opportunities, you begin to take complete responsibility for your internal landscape. You realize that every moment you spend doubting, worrying, or imagining worst-case scenarios is actually working against your stated goals. The transformation journey involves understanding that your actions become exponentially more effective when they're aligned with a clear, sustained internal vision, rather than being driven by fear, desperation, or reactive thinking. Your decisions start coming from a place of knowing rather than hoping. And this fundamental shift in your decision-making process changes everything about your results. Behind this revelation lies a hidden truth about the nature of creation itself. Your brain doesn't actually distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. It processes both using identical neural pathways. This means when you consistently imagine yourself living in abundance, your entire nervous system begins adapting to that reality before it physically manifests. The most profound realization in this entire journey is understanding that your external world is a perfect reflection of your internal state. What distinguishes extraordinary achievers is their ability to maintain their internal vision regardless of current circumstances. They've learned to live from their future rather than from their past. This complete inversion of conventional wisdom about success reveals that wealth isn't actually something you chase or pursue. It's something you become at the level of consciousness first. Most people spend their lives trying to manipulate external conditions without realizing that those conditions are simply reflecting back whatever frequency they're broadcasting internally. The path to mastery requires developing such unshakable inner knowing that external circumstances become irrelevant to your sense of certainty. You learn to make decisions from the identity of the person you're becoming rather than the limitations of who you've been. You speak, act, and feel from the assumption that what you desire is already yours in the invisible realm and is simply making its way into physical manifestation through the perfect timing of universal law. This understanding leads to a liberation that few people ever experience, the freedom from waiting for external proof before you can feel the way you want to feel. You realize that you can access the emotional state of having achieved your goals right now, and that emotional state becomes the magnetic force that draws your desires toward you with increasing momentum. Write in the comments, "I create my future now," if you're beginning to feel the power of living from your desired future rather than your remembered past. Now I want to reveal what might be the invisible game changer that separates those who achieve extraordinary wealth from those who remain trapped in cycles of financial struggle. When you engage in what I call deliberate dreaming, you're not just entertaining yourself with pleasant fantasies. You're actually engaging in a sophisticated form of consciousness programming that has tangible effects on your physical reality. The hidden truth behind this transformation lies in understanding that your subconscious mind is constantly scanning your environment for evidence that matches your dominant beliefs and expectations. But here's the revelation that changes everything. This scanning mechanism doesn't just operate based on what you consciously want or what you say you desire. It operates based on the mental images you hold with emotional conviction. Behind the scenes of this process, something remarkable is happening at the neurological level. When you consistently return to a clear, emotionally charged vision of your abundant life, you're literally rewiring your brain to recognize opportunities, resources, and connections that were always present but previously invisible to you because they didn't match your internal programming. This is why most people never break through to the level of wealth they desire. They engage in occasional wishful thinking rather than deliberate, consistent mental rehearsal. They create vague, general images of being rich someday, rather than detailed, emotionally vivid scenes of exactly what their wealthy life looks and feels like. And most critically, they abandon their vision the moment external circumstances don't seem to be cooperating. The transformation occurs when you develop what I call persistence through the invisible phase. This is the period between when you first begin programming your mind with new beliefs and when those beliefs manifest tangibly in your external experience. This phase is where most people lose faith and revert to their old patterns because they don't understand that creation always happens first at the invisible level before it appears in physical form. Think about how a farmer plants seeds. There's a period where nothing appears to be happening above ground. The seed is germinating in darkness, developing roots, preparing to emerge. If the farmer dug up the seeds every few days to check on their progress, nothing would ever grow. Yet this is exactly what most people do with their dreams and visions. They plant the seed of a new belief, then almost immediately dig it up to see if it's working, disrupting the very process they're trying to initiate. The key insight that transforms your entire approach to wealth creation is understanding that your job isn't to figure out how your vision will manifest. Your job is to hold the vision with such clarity and emotional intensity that the infinite intelligence within you naturally organizes the perfect path of manifestation. This might sound mystical, but it's actually a practical principle that successful people have been applying for centuries. When you create a detailed mental blueprint of your wealthy life and return to it daily with genuine emotion, something powerful begins to shift in your perception. You start noticing opportunities you would have previously overlooked. You begin attracting people who can help you in unexpected ways. Resources that seemed unavailable suddenly become accessible. Ideas and insights flow to you that never would have occurred to your previous mindset. This isn't happening because the external world has magically changed. It's happening because your internal receiving mechanism has been reprogrammed to tune into a different frequency of experience. It's like adjusting the dial on a radio. The stations were always broadcasting, but you weren't tuned to receive them. The journey to mastering this principle requires treating your visualization practice as a non-negotiable daily commitment rather than an occasional indulgence. Just as you wouldn't expect your body to transform after one workout, you can't expect your financial reality to shift after one session of visualization. The power lies in the consistent return to your vision, especially during those times when external evidence seems to contradict what you're creating internally. Behind every extraordinary achievement in human history, you'll find someone who persisted in holding their vision through the invisible phase when everyone Around them saw only impossibility. They weren't special or gifted with magical powers. They simply understood and applied this fundamental principle of reality creation that most people never discover. Write in the comments, "I persist through the invisible phase," if you're committed to holding your vision with unwavering faith until it manifests in your physical reality. If you've made it all the way to the end of this deep dive into the magic of believing, I'd appreciate it if you'd let me know by commenting, "This message was meant for me," below. It helps me understand that this content is reaching the people who are truly ready to apply these concepts, rather than just consume them passively. I spend countless hours researching these principles, studying the experiences of people who've successfully applied them, and finding ways to share this knowledge in a way that actually makes a practical difference in people's lives. If this resonates with you and you'd like to continue receiving content that goes beyond surface-level advice to explore the real mechanisms of personal transformation, I'd love to have you subscribe to the channel. This isn't just another collection of videos. It's a genuine community of people who are committed to understanding and applying these profound principles. And if you felt that connection throughout our time together today, that sense of discovering something you've always known but never quite articulated, a like on this video would mean everything to me. It's these genuine connections that make creating this content so rewarding. There's a video right here that takes everything we've discussed today and shows you exactly how to put these principles into practice with specific techniques that you can start using immediately. Click and continue with me over there, because the journey we started today is just beginning. And what comes next might be exactly what you need to turn these insights into your new reality.